Everyone, I'm going to be blinded by this, so I'm going to stand over here.
Hey, do you want me to stand over there?
And then Tanya's going to stand over there.
All right.
So welcome back to New Visions. Who has come and seen the last empath talk that I did here? Raise your hand. Okay. Raise your hand if you have not ever seen any presentation by myself about the empath stuff. Okay, good. Good. So because the first part of this presentation, I'm going to go over some of the information I went over last time. So for those of you who were at that lecture, I hope you learned something new and had amnesia that you didn't even see that one before, right? Yes. So anyway, everyone who does not know me, I am Lovehart, and I am an intuitive empath and a massage therapist, and I own Firefly Hollow Holistic Wellness Center. And my passion is helping those of you out there who are empaths. And we're going to talk a little bit about what that is, give you some tools, and we're going to go over nutrition stuff. And now Tanya, I met her recently, and it was kismet. It could have been more perfect as far as connecting with her and bringing her in to share with you guys her gifts and her information. So Tanya, tell us about yourself.
Hi, guys. I'm Tanya Jarrett. I'm a New York native. I just moved back to the area from Germany. I was there for 10 years, so it feels... Thank you. Oh, I thought you were telling me to pull up my shirt. I'm like, I all of a sudden thought that my bra was hanging out. I was like, oh, man, what a good introduction.
That's okay. We're all okay with that.
Well, guys. But it's good to be back to the area. I have been studying nutrition for a very long time. I'm originally a scientist by trade. So it's good to kind of transition out of that into doing what I'm meant to be doing, and that is serving people. So throughout my whole life, I've kind of realized that for when I'm working in a job, if I'm not serving somebody directly, it's not fulfilling my needs. So that's one of the things I love doing, is really helping people take charge of their health and doing it in a way that's authentic to them. Because not everybody has the same story. So you have to dig deep into what's going on with, the individual person, pull some blood work, figure out where they're going on their journey, right? There's more to a journey than just this body, okay? So that's kind of me in a nutshell. Thanks.
Thank you. And we'll get some more details too. She's got a lot of cool stuff to explore today. So, empaths. Raise your hand if you do not know what that term means. Yes! Nobody brought a spouse or a friend along that doesn't just like your support? Okay, good. So you guys all know what an empath is. I hope Noel's not in the way. No, you're not. You're good. So what is an empath exactly? So the definition of an empath in the dictionary is, chiefly in science fiction, a person with the paranormal ability to apprehend the mental or emotional state of another individual. Hey guys, we're science fiction. Isn't that great? So either science fiction is like we're totally science fiction and we're all crazy, or something miraculous is happening and we're bending the reality of what we have, so we're being able to experience things beyond, right? Paranormal stuff, right? Raise your hand if you, at one time being an empath, felt that maybe you were crazy. Okay, me too. Me too. This is an empath. Anyone ever see Star Trek? No. Okay, this is like back, wasn't this the 90s? 90s Star Trek? Okay, this is Deanna Troi, and a lot of people always said that I looked like her. I gotta do the face. Did I look like her? Like that she's like my doppelganger? But yeah, so she was an empath in this story of Star Trek. Nowadays, we have this buzzword going around about an empath, and it started out actually as a highly sensitive person. Now, empaths were always something that was a term, but it's been more mainstream because Dr. Elaine Aron, she's a psychologist, was studying people who have what she labels as a highly sensitive personality. So a highly sensitive person is a sensitive nervous system, is aware of the subtleties in his or her surroundings, and is more easily overwhelmed when in a highly stimulating environment. And 15 to 20% of the population are HSPs, or highly sensitive people, or empaths. Now, I don't really know how they got those statistics. We don't know, but somehow they got them. Who knows if that's even right? But at least at least according to the people in this room, we're not alone. By how many are in this room? 30 people? I don't know how many people are in here. So that's good, right? So as far as being an empath, we have special sensitivities. And I say we're special. So we have this awareness spectrum. And as an empath, we're more on this end of the spectrum. And what I mean about this awareness spectrum is you have individuals that are very concrete, very black and white thinkers, very physically oriented. Everything is black and white. You might have had an authority figure or a parent or a spouse or a friend that maybe you didn't jive with as much because they're so like black and white. Everything's like everything I believe in and experience is not real. They think I'm crazy. They think all this stuff is woo-woo. And it's because they don't experience that sense of perception. They have a very concrete sense of it. Then we move on to people who are more me-centered, that they're aware of the physical surroundings, third dimension. Okay, are we doing okay here? Everyone can see? Okay. Woo, thank you. But they're more aware of themselves, too. They're aware of their own emotions, what's going on with them. Then we move on to, I'm aware of my surroundings physically, I'm aware of my emotions, and now I'm aware of my tribe, which is my family, my immediate family and friends. I'm more empathetic to their needs. And then we move on to cultural tribe, people who are like, okay, I like my family, I connect with them, I can feel when someone's sad, I have empathy for them, but now I'm having empathy for this group, maybe in a culture, like maybe a group of orphaned children, or having more empathy for something outside of your immediate needs in your family and yourself. Then we move to the global tribe, where it's caring about the world, heal the earth, we need to heal the whales, and we need to heal all the plastic and the cats and everything. It's just like everything needs to be healed. So that's more awareness that way. And then metaphysical is having the awareness of things beyond the physical. So I feel the energy of that room. I don't feel just my emotions. I feel the energy of Facebook when I get on it. Can you raise your hand if you have that? Like, I got to get off this. This is way overwhelming. And then oneness. Oneness is the full end of that spectrum where I'm one with everything. I feel everything. I feel the universe. I feel all of that, good and bad. So that's the spectrum there. Anybody know where you may fall on this spectrum? There's no right or wrong answer. There's no good or bad answer. But the more further right to your right you are, the more sensitive you would be. The more further to the left, the less sensitive you would be. And at this time, we have a lot of people who are operating our governments and operating political systems and religious systems and science systems who are very concrete. And we're moving towards the middle with the generation that's coming in power. They're kind of moving into this holistic paradigm of seeing all different perspectives, not just science, but also what's going on with quantum physics. And we'll go into that at another lecture with Matt, because we always talk about that with him. If you guys have seen us talk before, we talk about that stuff a lot. As an empath, we are sensitive to environment, of course. You guys getting ready for holiday shopping? Who is actually going to go out on Black Friday? Yeah, no empaths do that. We don't do that. We don't do that. We do Cyber Monday. So as empaths, you will be very selective with your media choices. You may not even be able to watch America's Funniest Home Videos because of the people when they fall and get hurt, or if any animals are getting hurt, even if it's not a reality show, it's like fake, you might get sensitive to that. Horror movies might like plaster themselves into your brain so that afterwards you're thinking about them for days and you can't get it out of your mind and you're feeling it all. We also are very sensitive to underdogs. So any cultural need, anything that needs help, a person, place, thing, animals, we are very much there to help them. The whole cyberbullying thing, you may have a group of empaths in the younger generation that are all against cyberbullies, because that's a big thing now. Relationships. Who has fake relationships in this room? Okay. Are these the people at work? Because a lot of empaths don't like that stuff. We don't like that. We don't like that. When somebody we meet and we can tell that they're being fake or they're having a wall up and they're not being authentic with us, we'll keep them at a distance. Look at her. She's like, I hate that. Yeah. You don't have any patience for that. We want real connection. We don't want to have this disconnect emotionally. So we seek out real relationships. We also are narcissist and vampire magnets. Yes. And we'll learn some tools for that. That's actually one of the tools. Because of that, think about it. Narcissists are people that don't have empathy. And if anything, we need to learn to be a little bit more narcissistic and more thinking about ourselves instead of putting everyone else first, and they need more empathy. So in essence, people think this is a really bad thing, and I say it's a balance. We attract personalities in our lives that help balance us out and balance the characteristics we have. But when it comes to being a vampire, that's about learning boundaries. When you have people that just come around you and you're drained after being around them or even talking to them on the phone, those are energy vampires, and we're more susceptible to them. As far as our social preferences, a lot of times, think about this. When you go into the room, how many of you are sitting back here, not up here? Like, I don't want to be in the front. When you go into a restaurant, say there's a wall, you'll go around. You'll sit at the wall so you can see everything going on. You know, you won't sit with anyone's towards your, everything's looking at your back. Excuse me. You will make sure that you can see the room, right? So that's a preference socially. As far as how many people do you hang out with a social group, it's probably smaller groups of people. Maybe I'll go to parties every once in a while, but it's like 2 or 3 friends. I'm cool. I don't need any more than that. And then emotions. We have a very wide spectrum of emotions. Whether we're external processors, like myself, or internal processors, we feel things very deeply, much deeper than most individuals do. And so then that can give us a wide roller coaster of emotions as we go up and down with them, especially when we don't recognize that they're not our own and that they're other people's. I'm going to briefly go into my story, because that's for another thing. We're going to talk about eating for you guys today. Born an empath. I was born highly sensitive. Not only feel things, I see things that are beyond the physical spectrum, and I hear things that are beyond the audible spectrum. And so for me, my parents didn't know what to do with that, and they put me in hospitals. I was medicated, and I was diagnosed mentally ill for many years of my life. And then when I came into this place and spoke with some wonderful psychics that helped me realize that I was not crazy and that this was, in fact, something that was a gift, changed my life, went down basically changing toxicity in my life, getting rid of food, getting rid of negative energy, and everything as a healer or those on the empath helper path need to do to be able to come empowered with their energy. And so that's where I am now. I'll talk a little bit more about this, but part of that journey is why I'm here today. Is last time I was here, I was giving you guys tools psychologically and tools that you can use for overcoming these sensitivities or being able to turn your psychic volume knob up and down is what I call it. Food is a big one of those. And one of my things was eating. I used to be 260 pounds, and eating food and keeping extra weight on my body created an energy barrier for me. So I didn't have to feel as much. And when I did feel and got overwhelmed, I would eat, and sugar was my drug of choice. So as empaths, that's a lot of things that we usually choose some sort of substance. It could be sex, it could be relationships, it could be shopping, but we all choose something to help us feel safe and be able to feel like we're in control of those emotions that we're feeling from all around us. So we live in an ocean of energy, everyone. I think all of you guys know this because you experience it every day. You experience energy fluctuations. Raise your hand if at the beginning of this week you felt very tired, very drained. Okay, that's like 60% of the room maybe. I think almost all of you, raise your hand. Were you feeling that? Okay. So if you're more on the sensitive spectrum at the beginning, you might have felt that. We had, not only this week did we have some solar storms at the beginning of the week, yes, but we also had the Schumann resonance, which is the frequency of the Earth, spiked today, really high. So we're affected by frequencies. So you got to think about it. As empaths, we're affected by frequency. Everything is energy. And you experience this when you go into Walmart and you're under these fluorescent lights. And do you guys get overwhelmed when you're around them? You might not have noticed that before, but now think about it. When you go in there, when you're under fluorescent lights, they're going to start making you go, I got to get out of here. Because it's a frequency that the lights are putting off. And that's why being around good, happy people, crystals and salt lamps, and animals and puppies, all those things feel good to us. The other frequencies that we're around, I'm just going to go through the light spectrum quickly, just so you guys know. This is the light spectrum, and only this percentage of it here is what is we can visibly see with our eyes. So you think about it, we can't see X-rays, we can't see our cell phones, FM's radio, TV waves, all that stuff, but those are all going on around us. And as empaths, we are sensitive to these subtle energies. We may not see them, but we may feel them or sense them on some level. For me, when I was at my peak of sensitivity, my friends now tease me about this, but when they would come over, I'd tell them they need to leave their cell phones in the car. And they would laugh at me like, what do you mean? Because I can feel the Wi-Fi. Now, of course, this sounds like the ramblings of a crazy woman who has moved to the mountains and wearing a tinfoil hat, but this is exactly what I was going through. And now I said, Matt, my partner, you need to turn the Wi-Fi off. Turn it off. I'm feeling it. I feel it like it's prickling on my energy fields. I feel it. So he would go and pretend to turn it off. And I said, no, you didn't turn it off. So he was testing me to see if I was really needing to get a tinfoil hat and move to the mountains. But that's as far as the light spectrum goes. The electromagnetic spectrum also, we have where we have X-ray images. It's hard to see this actually, guys. Radio waves, ultrasound. These are just examples of everything we have that's frequency that we may not actually be able to sense as humans, but animals can. Animals can. Bats can hear differently than we do. Elephants can hear differently. Bugs. So we think about all these different species on this planet have different ways of sensing the world. And why not us? Why do we have to be labeled science fiction in the dictionary when we do have these capabilities? They just may not be recognized yet because it's been too crazy. Because for most of our existence, and the Newtonian physics ruled our world with science right now, the last how many years? We are totally focused on the physical. We want to understand cells. We want to understand everything in the physical. Now we're having to understand electromagnetic frequencies and things that are beyond that maybe we can't even measure yet. So that's where quantum physics comes in. This is from the HeartMathorg website. If you guys are really interested in that, I would check it out. It's a really great organization who are they compile studies that have done from third parties about the heart rate variability. So that means your heart rate changes. When you go into a place like Walmart, your heart rate is going to change. When you go and connect with someone that you love, your breathing, your respiratory rate, and your heart rate is going to change and become equal and coherent. And they actually studied this, that, for example, as a massage therapist, they studied with people who were getting a massage on the table, their heart rate and their breathing variability will become coherent and synchronistic with the therapist. And so if you have someone that you care about a lot, whether it's a child or a spouse, they've also done studies about that as far as group synchronization. So what happens in group synchronization, if you're doing a group ritual or some sort of religious ceremony, or you're watching an emotional movie in a movie theater, they've done studies that everyone's heart rate and their respiration starts to become synchronistic together. So you have to think about that. That's empathy, like, in my opinion, that's science proving that it's real, that we are tuned by other people's energy, or we're tuned by something that we're empathetic about. So I think that was pretty cool stuff. Up here, of course, this is the heart rate variability when we're frustrated and we're feeling appreciation. See how it's more nice and gentle instead of erratic up here. And then here is the respiration rate, heart rate variability, and blood pressure rhythm. Just kind of when someone was feeling stressed. And when they did some coherent exercises, so this was like a meditation, mindfulness techniques, within seconds, everything became coherent again. So these are some of the principles I want you to understand when we talk about some of the tools to help you guys as empaths. That you're not a victim of the energy around you. I want you to remember that, because that's one thing that as empaths we feel. Oh no, I got to wear like gas mask and all this stuff to go into the shopping mall. We feel that way. But I want you to take that victim powerlessness and throw it out the window, because what we have is a gift, and it's just learning how to manage it. Now, I'm not going to put you out there and say, you're 16 now, let's put you in the middle of the road with you're behind the wheel. That would be scary. And that's kind of like what it is with having your empathy turn up. You're getting a license without knowing how to drive. And of course you're scared. You may not want to ever get in the car again. So, yes. I want to touch on why we're becoming very sensitive. I believe that more and more individuals are becoming empathic or having intuitive experiences on this planet because we're very stressed. We're overstimulated by toxins in our foods, and Tanya's going to talk about that probably. And we're going to talk about, this. Does this stress you out just looking at this? Yeah. Okay. Me too, I can't even look at it. Wi-Fi, all the stuff I talked about, the electromagnetic spectrum that's affecting our energy field here too. But we're overstimulated. And when we're overstimulated, we are heightening our cortisol levels, and our fight or flight response is kicking in. So the sympathetic nervous system is in overdrive. Parasympathetic nervous system is the other part of us that helps us to rest and digest and feel relaxed. And that has a hard time really kicking in because we're always bombarded by noises, by stimulation of some sort. And what happens for individuals who are overstimulated, usually through trauma, car accident, near-death experience, some sort of abuse, a lot of times they'll get their spiritual gifts turned on because they're so hyperstimulated that they're not able to be physically in their body or having physical orientation. They kind of psychological terms they call it disassociation. And so if you've ever had a trauma or a memory that you remember outside your body, like I was above or up to the right and looking down, that kind of thing, the higher empathetic you are on the spectrum, the more you'll have memories, even from today or yesterday, like, oh, I was kind of spaced out. So, and all of us have had this experience of spacing out. Raise your hand if you've been behind the wheel and then you all of a sudden thought, who was just driving for 5 minutes? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay? That's kind of what it is. Can you identify where you went when you spaced out? Where was your awareness? This is what happens with empaths. Our awareness is maybe up to the left or up to the right. We're just disassociated from our body, disconnected from our body. And because of that, we're overstimulated even more because our bodies are like, get back in here. There's stuff that's dangerous. You got to watch and things like that. So there's kind of a vicious cycle with that. So here's the cute dog and cat, the cute part, except for they're not being cute. This is us right now. We're in fight or flight. We don't feel safe with our world. Look at the news. Please don't look at the news, actually. It's just going to make things worse for you. But there's so much love and joy in this world that we are being divided and conquered by fear porn is what I call it. All this stuff that's all around us and that gets us as empaths hyped up and feeling less safe. And we feel victimized by the world. So let's get ourselves out of fight or flight and consciously use some tools. This is, of course, just an example of energy, what it might look like if you could see it. Similar to what I see when I see auras, but a little different. Oh, that's me. Sorry, I forgot about this slide. This is me at Target, not at Walmart, but after I've used all my tools, changed my diet, and was really able to handle my own energy field so that I can walk into a room and not be influenced negatively by someone else's negative vibes. And that's why I went there, and Matt loves this picture. It's his favorite picture of me. Maybe one day I'll be the narwhal for Halloween, but yes, so you can too go into Walmart or a busy place using tools to be able to master your empathy sensitivity. Tools for empowerment. Number one is changing perspectives. Like I said before, raise your hand if you do feel victimized by this gift, that you feel overwhelmed, that you feel like I wish it would go away sometimes, like you feel like it's a curse sometimes. Okay, good. Sometimes we have that, and I urge you to realize how much of a gift it is. Because if you can recognize pain in someone or what they might need, where they're feeling hurt, if you're a caregiver, you can see maybe they need this. Or even if for your spouse and relationships with your friends or your lover, you can recognize what they need as far as how to communicate to them. You can feel these things out, and it makes relationships a lot more deep and valuable having this sensitivity, because not everybody can sense these things. And it helps us have that little bit of a better helps us be better able to help others with that. So changing perspectives. We're no longer victims of being an empath. And if you see any pictures of people putting that up on Facebook, please tell them differently. Boundaries. So remember when I was talking about those who are very sensitive and they check out and they're not really aware of their body so much? When this happens to you, even if this happened to you today while you're listening to me talk, kind of spaced out, that's okay. It happens. But as an empath, we tend to do this more than others. So on a scale of 1 to 10, ask yourself every day, how aware am I of my legs right now? Because you know you're not aware of your legs when you're on your cell phone. You know you're not in your body when you're on your cell phone. You're in there, I'm talking to someone, I hear so-and-so's voice talking to me, texting me back. You lost track of the physical surroundings. And when that happens, your nervous system will get on high alert. And it'll be hard for you to manage the sensitivity. You'll start to feel overwhelmed with text messages or Facebook, or the person came in the room, your son came home and he's upset, or someone's yelling his dinner's not ready. Whatever it is, you get overwhelmed. So boundaries, physical boundaries. This includes creating a schedule for yourself and creating a schedule with your meals and creating boundaries with others to say the big word that starts with N, ends in O. No. You don't have to help everyone all the time. How many do this? They help people beyond that they should, and then they continue to help them, and then they get mad about it after a while, and then they'll stop for a little bit and then go back and help them again. That's boundaries. If we can have solid boundaries with our time, with our energy, and with our physical bodies, so knowing where we're at, I'm in my physical body right now, get out of my head. I know I have to be on time for this. I have to eat these things because I know if I don't eat these things, I get really sensitive or emotional, or I get tired, or I get cranky, or hangry if I don't eat. Those are boundaries. And I tell you, this is the number one thing after changing the perspective of being victimized, being an empath. This is the number one thing that empaths and sensitives need to learn. And it's an ongoing process. It feels good to say no to someone out of love. To say, no, I cannot help you right now, but you know what? I'm going to rest up because I'm feeling ill, and next week I'm going to come over and I'm going to help you move. And I'm going to make you soup, and I'm going to do all these things. If you take care of yourself first and say no, you can help others better, and even a better quality of help, but maybe even help more people. So saying no with your boundaries and your time and what you put in your body and where you put your energy. Understanding the human energy field would be the second part. Because we all are all made of energy, and we have to understand where our energy is in our body and what areas feel different to us. Do you ever get a gut feeling when you meet somebody that you shouldn't trust them? Or when you're going on a first date or first day of school or something that you have butterflies in your stomach? That's your energy field. Everybody's had that experience. Now, if we want to talk about it scientifically, it's just your nervous system freaking out. But on energetic terms, when people talk about, I feel my chakras, that's what it is. That's the sensation of what it is. You can feel it in your heart when you think about a cute cat or a puppy or a baby or your lover or something. You just want to hug and squeeze so hard. Do you do that too? Does everyone do that? When you see something cute and you're just like, I want to squeeze it? Okay. But anyway, those are your chakras. That's your energy field. And our body tells us so much about the traumas and everything we're holding in this physical body emotionally. So understanding your human energy field is very important. There's lots of books here in this very store that you can learn about it. You can go get a Reiki session with an energy medicine practitioner, or you can get a chakra balancing session. There's many tools for you to use. But I would highly recommend learning about your physical body and your energy body through getting body work, massage therapy, Reiki, as well as doing yoga or walking or Qigong or Tai Chi, exercise, going to the gym, something that you can kind of be in connection with your mind and your body. So your spirit, mind, spirit, and your body. So you can feel what's going on, in both examples. And then raise your vibration. So we're going to talk about that with food. But anyone know what that means, raise your vibration? Anyone hear that everywhere all the time? I'm just kind of a rebel. Like, I hate when things are said all the time. I want to make up something new so it's not redundant. But it does have a really good meaning. Because as an empath, we get overwhelmed with the negative vibes. Do we get overwhelmed with the positive vibes? I don't think so. I mean, sometimes we can, but it's more of a euphoric overwhelm instead of a, oh my gosh, get away. So ways to raise your vibration is through things I mentioned, through positive self-talk, so through learning boundaries with your time and your energy, and through utilizing food. And that is the biggest portion of my journey that was the game changer. So for many years of my life, we're going to segue into Tanya here, many years of my life, I was understanding my energy field. I was doing affirmations. I was reading all these books in the store, amazing books. I was understanding that, oh my gosh, I was working for a chiropractor, oh my gosh, when my thoracic vertebrae are out, I'm having heart chakra issues and I can feel it, and I'm more emotional at that time. I was so in tune with that, but I wasn't in tune with what foods I needed to eat, because I was eating sugar and those slushies at Sheetz and baked goods and cookies and candy bars, and I could go on. It was just like, that's all I did. I ate that stuff and fried foods, and I felt like I had no energy. And I was overwhelmed all the time by my emotions. My hormones were out of balance because of what I was eating, and my liver wasn't functioning properly. So there were so many things that were going on, but because I wanted to focus all on the mental processes of being an intuitive, how do I master all this information I'm reading in books, I wasn't able to put it into physical practice because I wasn't focusing on my body. So that's my biggest passion in this life, because I've seen a lot of people who are really highly sensitive that have done so many years of study, but actually haven't moved that information into the physical and started doing it. And so that's something I urge all of you, in any way you're doing it, even if it's a little step, to step into taking that intellectual knowledge that you're learning here today and from now on, and making it something that you're physically doing, an action. So, with that being said, we're going to take questions at the end, but I want to have Tanya talk about raising your vibration through food and why food is so important. And I'm going to hand you the magic clicker.
All right. I'm really making a lot of noises over here. So up is up. There we go. Hi, guys. Oh, that's wrong way. Am I going down?
I think it's a down one.
Okay.
Yes, you got it. You got it now.
Okay, perfect. All right, so nutrition for empaths. Aren't these cards beautiful? So I pulled them from a few decks that I had, and I thought that that would be a really nice beginning picture because it all talks about nutrition. Okay, so detoxification, nutrition, healthy choices, diet is important here, organic foods, consult a nutritionist. These are all cards that I pulled out of my decks. Okay, so there's a little bit more to my story than I'm just a hometown girl from York that lived in Europe. So for me, I grew up in a family where everything was very black and white. There was no in between. So as I grew up a very black and white person, okay? There was no middle ground. There was, this is right, this is wrong. I believed in science. This is the way things worked. So as I began growing into the lady I am today, I realized that there's so much more energy going on than I realized. So we have cells, right? And our cells are the foundation of the human body. But nobody talks about, in a scientific sense, the energy that happens when the cells move, when they send signals, when there's hormones attaching to receptors, when they're talking to each other, what food does for your body. Nobody talks about that. I mean, we talk about it in a scientific sense, but we don't talk about the energy associated with it. So it wasn't until about, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago, that I met this beautiful girl right here. And she is an angel therapy practitioner. And when I met her, she was somebody that really opened my eyes to the world of not only energy healing, but how I can be more intuitive and how I can use that in my health. I always thought I had good health. But you know what? I wasn't really in tune with little things that were going on because I wasn't open to that energy field. So she taught me so much stuff. And I put this picture of her and I up there because it's when I look at this picture, it just makes me happy. It really does. So anyway, that is my story. So, really connecting with Kara just kind of solidified that there's so much more than just what you eat. And it was kind of my duty in life to help people who are struggling and to really get the facts out there. Okay? All right, so why nutrition? I want to hear from you guys. Why nutrition? Right. What does food do for us? Food, water? What do you think?
Keeps the system running.
Right. Food is the fundamental basic, right? How long do you think we can go without food?
14 days.
Good, more though. How long? Think about Gandhi. I mean, he went really long. You said 21? Okay, really, it's anywhere between 40 and 60 depending on the person. So that's a really long time, but water, you definitely can't go without water that long. Right. I think it's like 3, 4, maybe 5 days. It happens pretty quick. Dehydration, gone. But food being fundamental means that we can't live without it, right? So we have to have that. We have to have the nutrients in food to make our cells communicate, to have the cellular integrity of this beautiful cell. Otherwise, our cells would look all wonky, right? And as empaths, you have this beautiful gift to take on the energy around you, right? But also, you've kind of put yourself last, okay? And I know that I'm the type of person I take on, and who comes last? Me, right? Not my daughter, not my husband, not my clients, me. And I'm sure a lot of you guys feel like that. You come last. But by making sure that you're fueling your body with the right sources, you're able to manage that energy in a whole nother way, okay? And you're able to clear the space, right? You're really able to clear the space. All right, so this is a really funny picture. Twins, of course. So food has this amazing ability to increase your sensitivity, okay? Do you ever eat something really sugary and then you're all of a sudden like all jacked up? You know?
All of you after Halloween.
Right, right. And what's that movie? Where he's like, I'm all jacked up a Mountain Dew. It's, you know, yeah, Talladega Nights. Of course. So it increases your sensitivity, the foods that you eat. It also causes paranoia, mood swings, you know, hormone disruption. That is the number one thing that I see in my clients, is there's so much hormone miscommunication because the foods that they're eating are not real foods. Depression, there's chronic health issues, and weight gain. So weight gain is a symptom. There's always something underlying going on, and that is one thing that is so eye-opening to people. Like, oh, I gained all this weight. It's probably, it's probably X, Y, and Z. But there's so many other things going on underneath, even beyond food. Okay, so it's beyond just that body. It's that spiritual aspect. It's that mind aspect that causes weight gain. Weight gain's always the symptom. All right, so I want you to take a look at the heart on the left and the heart on the right. And just take about 10 seconds and look at that. And think about the energy that the picture on the left, left. The left is giving you. And think about the energy that that picture on the right is giving you. So who wants to be brave and tell me how it feels? Go ahead.
The one on the left is sugary and it's going to lower my vibration. And the other one is helping to raise your vibration.
Absolutely. So she said it right. But while there is some color in this picture, you see mostly bland colors, that yellowy, orangey color. It's kind of bleh. Okay, M&Ms are fun, but they are coated, right? So they're coated to be fun, all right? I don't think anybody wants to eat just a brown M&M. So there's some fun stuff there. But the picture on the right, guys, this is that feel-good rainbow. This is like, hello, I feel good. My heart's going. I want to eat some of that. It feels good. It comes from the earth, right? So how do you think you're going to feel if you fuel your body with those foods from the left?
All jacked up on Mountain Dew.
That's right. And then what happens after you're all jacked up on Mountain Dew? You crash. And for your energy, for those fields and that vibration that you're sending off, and also the vibration of the people around you, you're going to become even more sensitive, more, feel more negative, maybe feel more paranoid. Whereas if you are fueling yourself from that heart on the right-hand side, you're managing. You're providing yourself with nutrient-dense foods that are going to make a huge difference in the way that you feel. And you know, one thing I want to say is what I love doing with people is, okay, get them back into the whole food mindset, right? So it's a process. Everybody goes through the process in a different way. But once we start cutting out these crap foods and putting in these nutrient-dense foods, the magic starts to happen. And one thing I've noticed is, like, for you, everyone has whole foods that they can't tolerate, right? So for me, it's chickpeas. And chickpeas are healthy, right? Touted, everyone, go recipe on Pinterest, and God forbid you're going to come up with so many. But I get like this stomach, like this. I mean, it's literally like I was 6 months pregnant with my daughter. So, you know, it's also not every whole food is made for your body because we're all individually unique. So it's really important to find out what works for you and what doesn't. Okay? Did you have a question? Oh no, I thought you had a question. Sorry. All right, guys, welcome to this beautiful picture. This is the digestive system. Say hello. Hi. Hi, digestive system. Okay, so the digestive system starts in your mouth and ends at the bottom of your butt, right? So there's a lot that happens here. So what do you think happens when you put a piece of food in your mouth?
Saliva breaks down some of the nutrients.
You just said it. Awesome. Okay, as soon as you put something in your mouth, the enzymes for digestion get activated, okay? So it starts breaking down the carbohydrates and the food. You swallow, more of that happens. You get into the stomach, more of that happens. All the way, boom, 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 boom. Your food ends up here, and this in your GI tract, and that is where the absorption happens, okay? So we're going to focus in on this part right here. So your gut, all right? How many times have you heard information about your gut recently? Probably a lot. Yeah? Okay. All diseases begin in the gut. How many times have you heard that? Lots. There's so much truth to that. Okay? So your gut is full of these tiny bacteria. Okay? We have good bacteria and we have bad bacteria. And now, I have to be honest with you guys. I could talk about the gut for hours, but in order to you know, for time's sake, I really cut this presentation down. So if you are interested in more, I'll tell you at the end where you can learn more. But so we have the bacteria in the gut, okay? And the bacteria in our gut is shaped by, we shape that, okay? So it's shaped by what we eat, the stress we have, the environment that we're in, the toxins that we're exposed to, okay? So we have the choice to thrive or survive, okay? It's our choice. It's up to us. So there's a gut-brain connection, and I'm sure you've heard of that. Raise your hand if you've heard of that. Yes. And like Kara was talking about, and this was like, she was literally hitting the nail on the head as we were going along. You get those butterfly feelings, right? You get that sick feeling. Even if you're excited, some people might throw up because they're so excited, right? There is a true connection between your gut and your brain, okay? Pretty powerful, right? So who knows what serotonin is? Okay, it's a neurotransmitter, right? Where is the majority of that manufactured? How much of it? Okay. I feel like you know what's going on over here. Okay, so this neurotransmitter, serotonin, 90% of it, about 90%. Now, some people say different. Some people say between 80 and 90, but I would say about 90% of that is manufactured in your gut. There you go, gut feelings. There's that direct connection. So if you're fueling yourself with processed crap foods, okay, your gut bacteria has nothing to thrive off of, right? So what do you think is going to happen to your mental status? What do you think? Yeah, brain fog. You're going to feel really low energy, depression, anxiety. All of these things happen when your gut is out. That's why we hear the term leaky gut. We have these junctions in our gut. They're beautiful. These beautiful junctions, guys. They're supposed to be like this, all right? Can't get through. So what's happening is that
We're just beating our bodies up. Modern society, we live in it. We have to deal with it. But we're beating ourselves up, and these junctions are going like this. So when we eat, regardless of what it is, but especially those refined processed foods, these little particles are seeping through, and our body's attacking it. So we're seeing this huge increase in autoimmune diseases and gut issues and hormonal imbalances, and it's because we're not keeping those junctions tight. We have to keep it tight. Huge connection. And you know, if you went on Google, Dr. Google knows everything. Although I advise you use it with caution. But if you Googled leaky gut, I mean, the information available out there is so incredibly overwhelming that you might even want to self-diagnose yourself and be like, I totally have that. How many of you guys do that? You Google something, oh shit, I have that. You're like, oh God, I have cancer. That's how it goes. They're like, oh great, that's the last thing, you know? But this is the same thing. So, you know, it's really about once you take care of your gut, nourishing it properly, using the right nutrients, you can heal that. You can heal those junctions back together, okay? All right, so gut health is in the center. And the reason why I had this slide is because I just wanted to show you the impact that gut health has. So stress, mental and emotional health, your immunity, your immune system, guys, is here. So if you're sitting there saying, oh man, I get sick a lot, or you guys, you know that person who's always sick, literally always sick, coughing or something's going on, they're always sick, their immune system is just not functioning properly. I guarantee if I looked at their diet, or if you asked them what they ate, you'd be like, makes sense, okay? So sleep and exercise. Sleep is so important. You have to get that sleep. That is when your body is doing all the beautiful magic, okay? Restoring and regenerating and, you know, doing all those functions that it can't do when you're awake because there's so much going on when you're awake. You need that rest. But also exercise, okay? So it's really important. These all affect your gut health. So I'm sure you've heard the term probiotics and prebiotics, and I'm just going to kind of clarify what they are. So prebiotics are the foods that feed that healthy gut bacteria, okay? So the bacteria need to eat, guys, all right? So they have to eat whole foods, okay? They do not thrive in an environment where they can't recognize what the food is, okay? So bananas, and this is a little hard to see, and I apologize, but bananas, onions, garlic, oatmeal, these are all whole foods that really feed that good bacteria. But then we have probiotics, okay? And probiotics actually promote healthy bacteria, okay? So we're not feeding the bacteria, we're kind of promoting with bacteria. So yogurt, sauerkraut, pickles that are lacto-fermented, not with vinegar, guys, like traditionally fermented pickles with just salt, water, and you can introduce a lactobacillus bacteria in there. But plants naturally have lactobacillus on the outside of them. So when you ferment, you don't even really need a starter culture. Okay, so kimchi, supplements, probiotics, right? But here's the tricky thing. I've seen people where they're just taking probiotics because they think they need to, and they have something called small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, whereas like there's too much of the good stuff, and then you're having a lot of issues. So it's really important to know from an individual standpoint where you stand, okay? And I'm super excited because I'm actually teaching a class on this next week.
Can you read the ones in the right-hand column?
I sure can. So banana.
I can't read.
Yep, I know. This is a pretty brutal slide, and I apologize. Banana, onion, artichoke, garlic, oatmeal, honey, and asparagus. Okay, those are the top. All right, so you'll notice a lot of yogurt, you know, is cultured. I do suggest make your own. If you want to make your own, it's super easy, very affordable. You know you got the good stuff in it without all the junk, right? I mean, guys, let's be honest. The food industry, it's really hard to trust. Like, do you know, let me tell you guys something. This is so frustrating to me. So spices on a label, I'm an ingredient reader. If you ever go to the grocery store with me, you'll find me in the aisle, like reading, and I'll be like, ma'am, can I help you find something? I'm like, oh no, I know where everything's that in the store, I'm just reading labels. I like to know what's in the food. So spices can mean sugar. So if you have anything that has a label on it and it says spices, it can mean anything including sugar. If you have something that says natural flavoring, like in your chicken broth, it can mean anything that originally comes from a natural source. Not so natural once they put it in. Okay, so little things like that. Okay, so foods to thrive. My suggestion is, find out what works for you. Okay, really find out what works for you. And like I said a few times, no journey is the same journey. Okay, so you have to figure out your journey. And sometimes for people who are so overwhelmed energetically, it's hard to figure out that place where to start for yourself. But start small. I encourage you to. I really encourage you to start small. And one of the things I can, I really want to encourage you to do is when you eat something, really look at that food and say, is this food going to help me thrive? Is this food going to be good for my body and nurture good energy? Ask yourself that question, as silly as it may seem. I do it all the time. Guys, there's lots of Halloween candy in my house. Every time I walk by, I'm not gonna lie, I might grab a piece, but then sometimes when I go to eat it, and I've done this twice already, I open up okay, I'm a Butterfinger, girl, I've already taken them all out. I'll take it, and then I'll think to myself, I'm kind of low energy right now. Is this going to make me thrive? No. And at twice, I've thrown it away. So asking yourself, making sure that you have fresh foods and, healthy snacks available, so you're not grabbing for the pretzels or you're not grabbing for the granola bar that has 110 ingredients you can't even read. I encourage you to do that. That's my challenge for you. Because once you do that and take control of your nutrition, you're going to be able to be rooted in your own energy. You're going to be able to clear that space, okay? You're going to be able to do things for yourself. And it's so empowering. And that's what I want for all of you guys, okay? And I do think that's the end of my presentation, so I think I have the next slide here. Yes.
With what they've done to the almonds recently, the last few years, is it worthwhile buying them?
Too bright.
Well, I do think if you're getting organic,
I mean, I can get them from a farm in California, but what they sell is sort of a waste of money.
you know what? I always recommend buying organic almonds, preferably from California. So if they're not from California, I probably.
I mean, by law now they're pasteurized, right?
Yes, it's.
That's what I mean.
You can still buy raw.
Yes, I do.
You can still buy raw online. So that is always my suggestion, to buy raw. But here's the thing, with nuts, they have the tendency to grow bacteria on them very quickly. So every time you buy a big bag of nuts, store them in the freezer, okay? So walnuts, I've seen walnuts go rancid, and you can open them and you smell it right away. And there's those toxins on there that you don't want, those mold toxins. So take those nuts and throw them in the freezer. Sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, flax seeds, chia seeds, any type of nut. I put all of those in the freezer. And if you're using flax seeds, they're best ground right away before you use them. And then grind them, use them, but then put the rest back into the freezer, absolutely.
What Tanya was saying, I just had a brain fart now. I'm hungry thinking of all those delicious food to eat. Oh, about starting small. For your information, I didn't just go cold turkey and stop eating all the candy. I started introducing smoothies into that was my way. And it really was nice because it felt really good to blend up all these fruits. And even though now, in my journey now, the stuff I was eating was really high in sugar, but it was natural sugar. I was still getting my sugar high from these fruits that I was making in my NutriBullet, but it was a lot better for me, and it was for me psychologically a step on that journey. So that was my first step, introducing something healthier. Then I did salmon. I was like, salmon, everything salmon. So yeah,
You can't get enough omega-3s. That is one thing I see. like I said, I pull blood work. I want to make sure where you're at. Omega-3s, vitamin D, everyone's really deficient, and these are critical nutrients. Your cell is that integrity of your cell to look like this is fats. Gotta have those fats.
And I'm really glad that you do the blood work because for those of you out there, if you've been on the health journey at all, physically at all, you go into the health food stores, you're trying all these different supplements. Of course, a lot of us do it blindly, and it's so, wish I would have met you 10 years ago to be able to have that. Oh my gosh, I do have leaky gut. Oh my gosh, I do have the MTHFR genetic mutation that makes me not be able to process toxins. Oh my gosh, like all the things that you do. So it's really, really nice to have that guide of where to start. And as empaths, we don't like to ask for help, but I'm telling you, the quickest way from A to Z is to ask for help and get that on your journey. It really is nice too. You help everybody else, why don't you let someone help you for a change? That's always good. One question I had for you. By the way, she's going to do a gut health and lacto-fermenting class next weekend. So if you want to make your own sauerkraut, fermented vegetables, you're going to be doing that. I kind of had a question about that. You were saying that all of the plant material has probiotics, microorganisms on them. What about the plants that are sprayed with pesticides?
Okay, so you can still use them. I do not recommend that. I always recommend using local organic produce. It will kill the bacteria. And sometimes what I've found, if I use conventional carrots when I lacto-ferment, sometimes I'll get a funky grime on the top. And I do throw the batch out. Sometimes I do, but I always buy it organic, and I make sure I inoculate with a little extra lactobacillus, because all of the plants, the lactobacillus comes from the soil. So you'll have it on the outside of the plants, but I do inoculate a little bit more, and it kind of speeds up the fermenting process too. So you're not waiting 2 weeks, you're waiting a week.
And it's a lot cheaper to do fermenting for yourself than to buy bottles of probiotics.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
So the fermenting is fantastic to do as an addition for nutrient-dense food, but I still do recommend probiotics.
Okay.
Absolutely, because you will never get enough colony-forming units in a fermented food than you would in a probiotic. Key.
Has anyone ever had fermented vegetables? Anyone like sauerkraut?
I love it.
It's good.
Yeah, I love it. And then I'm doing a nutrient-dense plant-based holiday meals. It's only an hour, so a lot of the things that I'm going to be exhibiting are pretty quick meals, but just an easy way to get nutrient-dense foods into your holiday meals, because I feel like this is the time of year where people are like, I'm not starting anything. I'm not doing anything because I'm going to eat all my pumpkin pie and I'm going to eat everything and drink all I want. So January 1st it is. But it doesn't have to be like that. It really does not. There's so many fantastic ways you can make foods where you don't feel guilty at the end, or you don't feel sick, or you don't feel, energetically low.
I love that. For those of you who don't know, I am a gluten-free, sugar-free, dairy-free human being, and so is my son. And so at Thanksgiving and Christmas time, we're always looking for new things that we can make, and then we always really like it when other people try it, because it's that gluten, that's the gluten-free one. They walk away from it. And then when they try it, they're like, oh my gosh, that was really good.
Yep.
So I like that you're doing that.
Okay.
It's good. About this event, actually. So the first weekend in December is the open house here. It's a 2-day open house. So we'll be here, Matt and I will be here doing readings. We'll also have Pat, we'll have everybody who's always here. I don't know if anybody else in the audience is here with us too. But everything's on sale. The following weekend, Firefly Hollow is having our holiday de-stress relaxation event. So it's 2 days, and on the 8th, the Saturday, we're having Reiki clinic. So all the Reiki students who've gone through our training program, you can come in and get a Reiki session by donation. This is a good time to come get one after the holidays, after the Thanksgiving stress or during your holiday shopping. And we also have Pat Dumas will be there doing tea and tarot. And then the next day, we'll have Tanya there, and we'll have shop local with local vendors and crafters. So if you want to support local businesses, we'll have art, we'll have jewelry, we'll have local chocolatiers, we'll have people making herbal products that have their stuff there. But all day, we're doing these mini little workshops, and hers is from 1 to 2. We're going to have a sound bath, the singing bowls. We're going to have some kirtan music. We're going to have some cooking with herbs for the holidays, too. We're having that happening. And then also chocolate tasting. So there's all sorts of things happening that weekend. So come and de-stress with us there. But other than that, one more thing I do want to mention, in case you guys have any other questions. This weekend on Sunday is Tarot Clinic here. I know that Bob mentioned that. But if you guys have anyone that has crossed over during the holidays, or if you have friends or families, or if you have lost either a relationship or gone through a divorce, we have a special presentation this Sunday at Firefly Hollow from 1 to 2, which is by donation. It's called Coping with Grief During the Holidays. And this is Veterans Day on Sunday, and I feel particularly passionate about this because there are people that the holidays are really challenging for them. And so if you have any friends or family that want to come out to that, Sharon Young is doing that. She is a medium, and she is running that group and sharing some information of coping with grief through the holidays. So share with your people who know, because there's a lot of people out there that don't have as much holiday joy, and they need that support. So we're very happy to host her. But other than that, I hope you guys learned a lot.
Yeah, are there any other questions?
Yes.
It's about salmon, because I love salmon also. But wild salmon is very expensive. So I buy farm raised. And I know that, anyway, there are different farm raised though. And I know the difference. Nature's Promise that the giant isn't supposed to have antibiotics. They say the farm raised from Canada is better than here. And I don't really know.
Yeah, the problem we run into in the food industry is even things that are labeled organic, we're starting to find out that there's not truth behind it. And it's really sad. It's sad for the consumer. I do always suggest wild caught. I really do. Even though it says organic, farm raised, you can never be sure.
Right.
So I think Sam's Club, if you remember at Sam's Club, I'm pretty sure they have the wild caught frozen. And frozen's generally cheaper than fresh because they freeze it at the peak season of salmon. So if you could get your hands on some of that and then have it in the freezer. So that is my suggestion. I know it is pricey, but even when it comes to the cost of food, if you can do a CSA or something like that, you know you're eating in season. And that is powerful right there because you know you're getting the best of the best of the best. And supporting local farmers. You're welcome.
We also had questions.
You had mentioned about like when we're always sick, like a gut connection with the immune system and depletion. What if you have the opposite problem and your immune system is like on hyperdrive and you don't ever get sick, which is a great thing, but it also kind of wants to try to attack you too.
So autoimmune.
Yes.
Okay. So with autoimmune, it's tricky because a lot of times an autoimmune response gets triggered, and there's a trigger by that. Okay, so it's either stress-related, event-related, food-related. There's a lot of things that can trigger autoimmune, and I think the nutrition community and the wellness community is still really trying to figure out autoimmune because there's no one-size-fits-all approach. There's these elimination diets that you can do, but if you're advanced, let's do rheumatoid arthritis, for example. There you go. Okay, so if you're advanced rheumatoid arthritis, I've worked with people who I have a really hard time even making progress with them because their immune system is really hacking on them all the time, that they need the methotrexate, they need the drugs, or they cannot function. And it's about, for them, it's about maintaining the best quality of life that they possibly can. So changing the diet, yes, has to happen, but it's never going to be a cure. And there has to be that talk with the patient or with the person that you're working with, because there's some people who thrive off of an autoimmune protocol, but then there's other people who are like, they get so frustrated because these flares happen and these issues happen, but that has to be expected when it comes to an autoimmune issue. Autoimmune is very tricky. It is very tricky. And there's wonderful ways to get relief through supplementation and food, but there's also that tricky part
I
that,
was just curious if there was like specific, well, I've worked with some of the elimination diet. I've gone through that. And I was on all the medications, methotrexate, Emerald, all that good stuff. Not good stuff, actually. But,
right, it's not good stuff.
What I found for me was that when I kind of combated and conquered the stress and all the anxiety and things that I had not dealt with, and I dealt with them and moved past them, that my immune system started, my flares stopped happening as much, and I stopped with the medications because they actually make me sicker.
Yes.
So now I'm coming back from that. Over the past 2 years, I've been coming back from that state of complete depletion because I was to the point that I didn't think I would make it another 5 years.
Right.
I felt like I was fading away.
Yeah.
But there's still, I still don't get sick. I don't have as many, I very rarely have anything pop up inflammatory wise, but I'm still trying to fine tune things.
Of course.
So I didn't know if there was anything specific that might play into that, or
It's with autoimmune. It's always a work in progress. You're always a work in progress, but in traditional medicine, westernized medicine, nobody talks about the stress management. They'll tell you you need stress management, but what does that mean? That's something different for everybody. So what stress management means to you is completely different to you, and then to you, and to you. It's all different. But I've had clients tell me, I'm not stressed out, and then when I sit down and really talk to them, the energy is like, I'm just like, oh my gosh, after that session, I'm like, oh, that was a rough one. They are stressed out. And I understand why the food is not working for these flares, because it's multifactorial. There's no one thing going on. What are you putting on your body? What are you washing your hair with? You know, what perfume are you using? Are you using BPA products? You know, this all matters. It is a huge part of wellness. And, you know, it's so funny because I'll tell you guys a quick little story. My mom was helping with my daughter the other day, and she's like, I don't know what you're washing your daughter with, but that stinks. And I'm like, what? It's like all natural. She's like, it stinks. And I'm like, well, Mom, I'm not using Dove, she's like a Dove fan. I'm like, I'm not using Dove because I read the ingredients and I'm not comfortable with it. She's 5 years old. I'm not doing it. Well, that stinks. It's just funny because it's generational, right? And things have changed. Manufacturing processes have changed. So Dove 50 years ago is not Dove today. But products are getting smarter. They are.
And also look in your environment, into your home, your physical home. Mold.
Yeah.
Do you have any mold going on in your home?
no.
About your environment is smoking.
Yes.
Okay, because I
That's
see
one
that,
that's gonna be
like there's a lot of gray kind of around here too, so, yeah. But the home environment too, of course, is psychological too, like clutter and things like that too. It can be stressful too. You don't have a place to go home and unwind, have that sacred space. It's really important for empaths. Yeah.
I love that you just said that. Like, clear the clutter is a card I get a lot when I do my own angel readings. And I'm like, oh man, who wants to clear my clutter?
But it is a multifaceted thing. Like she
It
said,
is.
everybody's individual. It really is. I wish it was one answer for everybody. It'd be
I
so
wish
easy.
too. It'd be too easy.
That would be too
Come
easy.
on.
Learn
We like to live the hard life.
We
Right.
have to be different, so we learn.
Right. Does anybody else have any questions?
She did.
Oh.
When you counsel someone regarding nutrition, do you take into account their blood type? Do you energy test? Do you find out where their ancestors were from, and then you know what they ate, which would affect the person's body?
I personally don't, and I'm going to give you my personal opinion on that. So as far as like taking into account blood type, we are not our ancestors anymore. So we need to really look into what's going on. We need to look into the biochemistry of somebody, lipid profile, thyroid, inflammatory markers. I mean, your blood type isn't going to tell you all of those wonderful things, and that's why I don't take into account blood type, because I've found no, this is the scientist coming out, but I've found no hard research showing that that makes sense. And that is what I go off of. That does not make sense to me. I know there's books and there's a lot around it, but until I see the hard evidence that this is something to consider, I don't look at it. But I do take into account biochemistry, because that does not lie. And I tell Kara that all the time. I'm like, your blood work doesn't lie. So if someone comes to me with these issues and I pull a report and I say, all right, this is what we're dealing with, and this is how we need to move forward to fix it. These numbers aren't lying.
Yeah, not everybody who has Swedish descent is necessarily good on dairy, because the Swedes eat a lot of dairy, and you think that, my blood type, my heritage, not everybody can handle dairy, and it might be the hormones or the pesticides in the grass they're eating. If I don't know, whatever, it might be that too. But the eat right for your type thing, I have heard that before, and I kind of agree that I think it's different. Again, everybody's individualized. Even, and I'm gonna say this, Anthony William, the medical medium, I'm going to say this, that he has created these amazing books that have helped people. And I think the ones like the thyroid cure, one's a liver cure, now it's a new book. He has a lot of followers. He's a great man. I don't know him personally, honestly. But again, if you look at that book, what he's suggesting in the book, a lot of the protocols he's suggesting, if anybody would do them, they'd have release of their symptoms.
Right.
But some of the things he's saying he's getting from his spirit guide that's telling him, and I'm not going to say whether or not he's right or wrong, but again, that book is written for a general population. I still really believe that even if you have a medical intuitive, and if you have a spirit guide telling you, it still should be individualized, not to a general audience. So you may get some stuff out of his books that are very helpful for you, but again, I think it's really, again, working individually.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Very good point.
Red wine.
I'm all for it.
Red
I am.
wine.
Resveratrol is one of the most powerful, external antioxidants we can have. There's so many cardiovascular benefits. But here's the thing, one glass toward a bottle, and I know a bottle's pretty easy to drink. So, you have to pick your poison, right? I mean, I do think a glass of red wine with dinner every night is 100% okay.
Do you find it hard, like, within the nutrition community to keep yourself continuously educated? Like, do you find it hard to have specific resources you rely on?
That's a really good question. Not necessarily. I find that when you go into nutrition, you kind of pick an area of specialty. And you kind of like dig deeper into that. And then by experience, you learn a lot. So, by working with a lot of clients, you really gain knowledge that you would not gain from external resources. But that's actually a really good question. I think there's a lot of brilliant people out there, super brilliant people. I've read a lot of books, and I follow a lot of people, but I still always come back to my intuition, that small voice telling me, Tanya, you have to dig into what's going on with the client, because there's so much more than just nutrition. And there's not many nutritionists and nutritional therapists and registered dietitians that do that. Right? There's not many people that dig a little bit deeper than, let's just change your diet. It's like, no, let's change a lot of things, because I'm sensing that there's so many factors pulling into why your health is the way it is. Yeah, that's actually a really good question. That's something to think about. I've never been asked that before. Kudos. Kudos. Anybody else?
I do a road rate usually, most days, mornings, then I'll have maybe 2 meals. Now, would a blood test show where I am lacking in something?
It depends what you pull. Yeah, like if you would do a mineral profile, absolutely. Normally, a basic metabolic profile is going to pull like magnesium, sodium. It just depends on what you're looking for. Like, if there was something specifically you were looking for, we could test that. But I usually do a bunch of questionnaires first, because blood work is expensive. So I don't want to be testing all these different things, and then it comes back and it's like, well, you're healthy. Were you just curious? Yeah.
I study nutrition on my own. I always have hemp seed and chia seed.
Absolutely.
And like 16 other things in there. Always organic carrots. And so on.
Wonderful.
beautiful.
It shows on your skin.
I always want to learn more.
Absolutely. And the thing about nutrition is it's always evolving, and it will continue to evolve. So what we know today is not what, it's going to change. And I think that's why I like science and nutrition so much, is because there's always more to learn. There's always continuing education. And, remember the eat low fat? Look at us now. We've changed. We're all, about eating good fats and really getting those fats in, because we know how important they are for brain health. We know how important they are for cellular health.
Well, thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
If you have any other questions, you can come up and chat with us at the end. Thank you guys so much for joining us.